Today, we'll be discussing about a pervasive issue that continues to challenge organizations worldwide, the underrepresentation of women in leadership roles. We are going to explore the deeply ingrained biases that hinder women's advancement, despite their qualifications and capabilities. This isn't just an anecdotal observation. Research consistently reveals a stark disparity between women's qualifications and their representation in leadership positions. We are going to be discussing about the hard data that exposes this gap and delves into the psychology behind it. We are going to explore cognitive biases that influence how we perceive and evaluate leaders. We are going also to analyze the impact of gender stereotypes and implicit biases on the assessment of women's leadership potential. In this conversation, we are going to explore also concrete strategies for women to navigate these challenges and shatter the glass ceiling. We will discuss about how men can become effective allies, fostering inclusive environments where women can thrive and lead. Well, join us as we unpack the critical issue, gain valuable insights, and explore how embracing diverse leadership styles can unlock unprecedented growth and innovation in corporates. Today, my guest is Julia Snedkova, and I want to welcome her. Julia is a leadership coach who empowers ambitious women to reach their leadership potential. She's also the founder of Leaders Are Us. She has more than 16 years of experience in senior leadership positions of Fortune 500s, an MBA from INSEAD, and cross-cultural expertise from working in over 30 international markets. Julia brings a wealth of knowledge to her leadership development practice. She understands the challenges of women that women face in the corporate world and is passionate about helping them break through this glass ceiling. Julia, welcome to the Growth Hacking Culture podcast. I am thrilled, in fact, to have you here. Thank you, Julia.
Ivan, I'm thrilled to be here with you, and thank you so much for this very warm welcome. I'm delighted and honored to discuss with you this topic because I find this topic crucial and important, and indeed it's something that I'm facing daily with my clients. So I'm absolutely looking forward to dive in the discussion with you today.
Julia, let's dive because
Let's go.
I mentioned that this story about is it anecdotal or not, or is there any hard data or research that paints the clearest picture of the disparity women face in reaching leadership positions?
Plenty. To answer short, plenty, Ivan. So there are lots of hard data that comes from different various research studies that proves actually that women today have inferior opportunity to reach leadership positions. So if I can funnel the data for you, so let's start with the McKinsey report, Women in Workplace, which last year, 2023, revealed that for every 100 men that got the chance to be promoted for the manager roles, there were only 87 women. So we already see a starting gap at this level. Then we go kind of up in the pyramid. So the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap report, again, for the 2023, showed that only 28% of managerial positions are held by women today. So this is managerial level. Then if I bring you even higher, so let's look at the CEO levels. Today, unfortunately, only 6% of CEO positions are held by women. This number is slightly better for the Fortune 500. So this number goes up to 10%, 10.4 to be precise. And it created a so-called phenomenon, 10% club. So women who led positions in those companies, and there are literally 52 women, they're called 10% club. Fortunately, unfortunately, this number progressed into years by 10. So it used to be 41 CEO, female CEO in 2021, and now is 52. So yes, we gained 10 more female CEOs. So we can celebrate it as a big success, or we can say, hey, there is a huge road to go ahead because we are still missing 90% of our female, potentially leadership roles open for females. And probably one more data point, because we speak a lot about women in the boardrooms, right? And so today, only 8% of boards are chaired by women. So there is a huge opportunity for development, for progress, for evolution for the women that I hope as a society we can focus on. However, I want to also bring one kind of scary statistics that was revealed by LinkedIn, since they work with raw data of people being promoted and updating their profiles, they noticed that amount of women getting to the leadership roles actually declining year on year. So we would expect the opposite, but from 2023, amount of women reaching leadership position declined by 1% year on year. So yes, we are doing our best, but it's not always supported by the real data.
Uh, Julia, it doesn't even astonish me. I still remember back in the days when I started going to the workforce, the number of women CEO was around 3%. That was 20, maybe 25 years ago. So we have grown from 3% to 6% in more than 20 and something years, despite the fact that there is a lot of organizations. And I still remember clearly 2 years ago, Unilever claiming that they have reached parity. And I also remember clearly the reaction in LinkedIn after that post. Why should we favor women, the representation of women in leadership positions? Why do we have to force it? So it's despite the fact that this is very recent that Unilever was successful at having a certain level of parity or representation, people still are not ready. And that drives me to my next question. Is there any research or data that dispels the myth that women lack the qualities needed for leadership? Are there actually any studies showing that somehow they outperform men in certain areas?
Yeah, actually, there is a big study that was done by Zinger Folkman for the Harvard Business Review in 2019. They ran the study annually, and basically what they've done, they analyze the leadership, key leadership traits. They define 19, the most, let's say, representative for the core leadership positions, and they test those skills on the sample of 60,000 leaders. So it's fairly representative study. And this study revealed consistently year on year that 17 out of 19 skills are actually outperformed by women. Surprisingly or not, this is a hard data, right? That's what we have. Skills that are listed there, some of them historically been attributed to men. But the study reveals that women are stronger in problem solving, in driving results. They're by 11% more effective in taking the initiatives. They're by 9% more effective by being resilient. Again, surprisingly, they outperformed men in bold leadership, again, being decisive, taking decisions, making change, integrity, team management. Across those all parameters, women outperformed. Nevertheless, I absolutely resonate with what you shared about this LinkedIn reaction, because I also tried to post something similar, and I got a big wave of negative reactions saying, "What are you saying? Like, why? Like, there is no difference between men and women. We are the same. We should not speak about gender. Let's just promote on performance." Yes, I agree, but we should accept there are still some certain differences between men and female leadership.
I think you have said it. Let's promote performance. So, but performance is a very subjective topic. So my question is, aren't we a little bit like our male psychology, which let's say 90% of the cases we are in power when we are talking about very senior leadership positions. Is it that is breaking the perception of if women are performing or not? Do you have like any specific examples of cognitive abilities or personality traits where in fact women outperform men?
It's a good question what you're asking, and actually, I wanted to share with you like two studies that I found surprisingly about what you said, that there is a bias that men is promoted on potential and women is promoted on performance. So I really want to pause here because there is a big gap. So for men to be promoted, he doesn't need to have evidence yet, but just kind of have a potential that he will grow up or develop, and he's already given a chance. While woman, he already need to have hard data that she achieved something to be considered for the same role. And actually, there was interesting study done by Yale University that compared two identical CVs two identical resume, same content, different name tags, male and female. And so obviously for male resume, recruiters were much open to hire male candidate because he considered him as a stronger accomplisher, and they found his CV profile much more complete, while in reality it was identical documents. So there are lots of biases that already exist at the beginning of the promotion journey before women even consider to be promoted.
So it's almost like if for men it's enough how to portray the image that we can, and for women we need the actual proof that they have done it. But of course, if they don't reach that position, it is very difficult to have a proof.
That's the issue, absolutely.
Can women play that game? Can women fake it the same way that men are faking it in order to reach the next level?
I don't know if the faking it is the right word, right? But I think women just need to assume, embrace, and showcase skills that they have, right? In the previous question, you asked me what are the concrete skills where women outperform.
Yeah.
And look, it's for sure emotional intelligence, right? There are studies done by Harvard Business Review with Daniel Coleman, who is the king in the emotional intelligence. And it's proves that women are stronger in showcasing empathy and doing relationship management. Yes, men could be considered stronger in building networks, but nurturing networks, women much stronger. Nurturing teams, women much stronger. Again, communication skills. Everything that comes to the active listening, teamwork, communication, women are stronger. It's been proven by the Peterson Institute for International Economics. There is no way men could today generally outperform women on communication. Problem solving, decision making, we mentioned it, right? The Gender Falkman study, 2009, 2020, the same. Women outperform at least by 10% men. Integrity, ethics, research done by PwC on the ethical leadership, women are stronger. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. I guess us women, we're just not showing it enough. So instead of saying, can women fake it? I would say women should showcase it more, or showcase it stronger, or showcase it better to be seen for those specific skills.
But what exactly they should do better? So if we look at from a sociological or psychological perspective, what is exactly what prevents them to be perceived as a good leadership material?
That's a very, very tough question, Ivan. And I wish we as a society would have an answer because unfortunately the gender stereotypes that we have, they're so strong and they're so well engraved that some skills that today associated with men, like assertiveness, decisiveness, dominance, they became almost a symbol of leadership, which is not the case as we discussed, right? Because the good leadership stands for empathy, it stands for integrity, for teamwork, which women are stronger in. But today, the leadership models that we perceived, it's associated with assertiveness, decisiveness, dominance that sit in the male camp. On the other hand, what women could bring to the table is empathy, it's nurturing, it's cooperation. Those are not considered strong leadership signs. And that's where the kind of the disbalance starts. And I guess it has lots of things to do with our social role theory. Well, historically, men are considered breadwinners and women are caregivers, and everyone should have their role. And that's where empathy, nurture for women should be applied, and that's where dominance and decisiveness for men should be applied. So they're kind of different fields that historically been there, but they're not serving us anymore as a society. So we need to drive awareness that it's not relevant anymore, and we need to try to find way to get rid of it. Let's put it bluntly, right? So we need to remove it because otherwise it creates so many biases. What I would give an example with identical CVs treated differently because of male and female names for those CVs. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in this forever because the gender gap report by World Economic Forum says that we will need 130 years to close the gap. 130 years. I mean, can you imagine this number? We can discuss whatever we want, but if we don't do any tangible shifts, we are still in a long journey.
Wow, this number is quite scary. And I think that there is a missed opportunity financially for organizations in order to cover quicker this gap. what I hear from you is that from one side, the society and the macro society incorporates needs to work on making people aware of their biases. That's from one side, but from the other side, there is the need for women to show these hints or these visual cues, sorry, in English, visual cues that make that they will be perceived a little bit more aggressive, like men, these testosterone visual cues that they have when they are discussing this passion, spitting when they are talking loud, being overheard. Is that correct? Do they need that, or do we need to wait that the society adapts?
You're asking me tough questions, Ivan, right?
I
And I think
know, I know, but
that's
these
the
are the
whole
questions that I'm
purpose.
asking myself.
Well, easy way out, as you said, for women would be to copy paste male leadership behavior and just showcase it. In reality, it's not as simple as it sounds, because the same behaviors that men illustrate today could be judged if it's applied by women. So in your case, the key male trait we see a lot in leadership today, it's my favorite one, assertiveness. I'm saying it my favorite one because I was in this trap for so many years without having a clear leader model for myself. I actually thought, I considered like, to be successful, I need to be assertive. And so I took it on board. I showcased almost the same behavior as you described, and I was criticized. I was criticized by my upper management saying that I'm too aggressive. So, what for men is considered assertive, for women is actually considered aggressive. And so in psychology, this phenomenon is called like a double bind, because in reality, woman needs to show authority, but she should avoid being labeled as unfriendly. And this is almost two opposite actions that she needs to showcase to be considered assertive in a way that assertiveness means you're a good leader or you're a leadership potential. It's almost asking impossible from a woman in this case.
Wow.
And there
So,
are many other skills and leadership traits that perceived differently for men and women today, unfortunately.
so the tolerance towards behaviors are biased by either gender, and we can even say sometimes even by race. But so whatever women will do, it is super dangerous to mime or to mime the behaviors of men. So somehow
Mm.
women have to work on something that makes them that considers the gender in order to display leadership. Is that correct?
It is correct in a way that women need to be super mindful how they play around those leadership traits that today are considered as signs of good leadership. For instance, if we go for the emotional expression, right? If women showcase her emotions at work, she would be considered as less rational, or she would be considered as weak. However, if man does it, he would be considered as passionate. He would be considered as relatable because, oh my God, he really hears me. If a woman does it, what's wrong with her? That's pretty much the reactions we hear in the workplace. If you go like even this is verbal, right? If you go about non-verbal, like I don't know, gestures, body language, mimics, etc. So for women, it seems more like okay, she's trying too hard. She's bossy. She's giving the orders. For men, it's like, oh, it's natural. It's authoritative. Like he's very confident in it. And actually, the basic even I don't want to say basic, but one of the core steps for a person to get a promotion, it's kind of self-promotion, right? Or driving self-awareness in the organization. So when man does it, it's perceived as being self-confident. When woman does it, kind of speaking about herself, about her achievements, she's considered boastful or lacking humility. And it's already kind of at this level, it makes women to pause and to stop and be silent about what they achieve. And that's what I see a lot as a coach, to be honest. When I speak to my clients, they say, look, I don't want to speak up about my achievements because people will not take it in the right way. And that's what research shows to us as well.
Uh, Julia, I want to go a little bit in the side direction. So at the beginning, when I was introducing you, I mentioned the fact that you have been working in different parts of the world, in different countries. And I remember that discussing with some peers in the Middle East, the perception was, yeah, in Europe is better. But is the situation of women better? Like in France, where you're currently living, is it something that, are we optimal? Is it something to take as a model of promoting women? And can we apply it also in the Middle East?
The model is not optimal, right? So if you go back to the gender gap report by the World Economic Forum, there is not a single country globally out of 143 countries they monitor. There is not a single country that closes the gap by 100%. The countries that the closest get to it, and it's number one in the ranking, is Iceland. And today it has 93.7% of closing the gap. So to your question, there is a big difference within Europe. So definitely Nordics. After Iceland, you have Sweden, you have Norway, Denmark. They're much closer, and they remain in 90th percentile of closing the gap. Top 10 countries, 7 out of 10, they remain in Europe, as you said. Spain being 10th. Unfortunately, France is not making this ranking, so France still has lots of issues to close. And if you look by regions, with 68.5% would be their average global, the Middle East would be around 60%. So it's below average, unfortunately. The gap is wider there for obvious reasons, for cultural reasons. And so, yes, it's different versus Europe, but you have big differences within the European region itself.
Now, it is good that you have mentioned Scandinavia, because Scandinavia changed the laws for parity probably 20 years ago, something like that. I still remember I was quite young at work. I had hair back then, Julia, by the way. And kind of they forced parity. So there was certain laws that says this is the percentage of women that should be in boards. This is the percentage of women that should be in leadership positions. They also change a little bit the educational structure so that there is more representation in different departments or in different themes or topics in university, a good representation of women. So they ensure that the pipeline was there in order to ensure that there is people at the top. So this forcing the parity, what do you think about it? Is that an option?
I'm not a big fan of everything that is forced. I truly believe in the natural balance. Unfortunately, if it's the only way out and it's shown to be working in Scandinavia, probably it's a solution, right? So today we have evidence it does work, because otherwise we stuck with this 130 years gap, the time frames that we need to close the gap. Probably, unfortunately, in this environment, in this setup, enforcement of gender quotas would be the first step we all need to take. However, why I don't like this force, because apart from forcing women, or actually not forcing women, forcing companies to promote and to employ women on the more senior positions, we need to create the ecosystem where women are ready, where they are prepared in terms of soft skills, in terms of hard skills, in terms of, I don't know, building networks, building personal brand, as well as we need to prepare men on facing biases or eliminating gender biases. So when they start working together, we create actually a fruitful working environment, and not just another setup for disaster where we would give an excuse to society to say, we told you we should not do that.
But as you said, Scandinavia, 20 years ago, they implemented something. And in fact, they didn't even need to have biasing trainings, because when you see it live, if a person is worth that position, then people changes automatically. They take a natural thing. So they are removing also the biases because of the interaction. And that has happened in studies not only with women, but also with multiracial organizations, that the more you get used to, the less you see that there is a distance between the way these people do things. So that it might work. Now, let's get to forget about this Scandinavia, the test that they have done and the results that they have today, which is, for the time being, it is positive. I have never heard that even when you interact, and good that you mentioned Iceland. I had the opportunity to discuss with Icelandic people. I mean, it's almost like for them weird that you ask them that question. Is it different? Do you feel left over if you're a man? They find it completely weird. They look at me and they say, what? Anyways, if we come to the natural, the standardized world, what concrete steps can women take to overcome these barriers or increase their chances of reaching leadership positions? What are you advising all these women that come to you for recommendations about how to either remain in leadership positions, remain in leadership positions or get there? What do you advise them?
Look, I strongly believe in general, as a coach or as an individual, whatever the issue we face in our life, we need to take ownership, right? So it all starts with ourselves. We might not change the system tomorrow, but we can, as you said, increase our chances to be considered for the roles we aim to get. So for me, first of all, women need to embrace things that they don't naturally like doing. Networking. So every time I speak to women, they just don't like it. They say, hey, I haven't yet to meet a woman who would say, I enjoy it or I'm very skilled at it. They all understand it's needed, but they just don't like it. And statistically, men are known to have broader networks, or they actually much quicker in establishing networks in the new for them environments. So networks, strategic networks, having mentors, having sponsors, career sponsors, it's something women need to step up. Second one, for me, it's building a brand or building a personal brand. Actually being known for your accomplishments, being known for your results. Yes, we said the moment a woman starts to self-promoting herself, she might be considered boastful or lacking humility, but she needs to find a way, a balanced manner to showcase her performance, to showcase her results, not to boast, but to drive awareness what she's capable of. Because as we just discussed, unfortunately, women is promoted by performance, not by potential. So she needs to make sure her environment are aware about her performance to date. Another one, I strongly believe in constant development, right? So women need to get to keep learning, to develop new skills. And again, unconsciously, women tend to gravitate to the skills that might hinder their career progress. I hear a lot from women, I don't like analytics. Like, for instance, I don't want to develop my knowledge in analytics. Well, whether you like it or not, you need the skill in the leadership position, right? You need to be able to work with data. You need to be able to be financially literal. So that's something that women need to do proactively. There was some data I read somewhere that women believe that analytics, digital, and sustainability won't impact their career in the next 5 years. Knowledge of digital analytics and sustainability won't impact. While it's completely opposite. That's where the whole business is moving, right? They must step up their knowledge and those skills, but it's not something that they're embracing proactively. I also think women need to be, speaking about proactivity, need to call out biases, need to speak up, need to raise a hand. When they see that something is not aligning with their values or is not aligning with the corporate values or corporate culture, they need to say it, because otherwise it's too easy to accept, and then the situation remains unnoticed. And maybe one more, just to make it top 5. I think women need to step up their negotiation skills, because unfortunately we see today that to get the opportunity, quite often women would need to negotiate for it, whether negotiate for promotion, negotiate for even salary, negotiate for the scope or whatever. And for this one, she a priori would be offered a smaller, lower version of the same offer that men would receive. So for her, again, to step up and aim to close this gap, she needs to be proactive in negotiating or raising her hand herself.
I have seen, especially the point number 1 about looking for sponsorships, for sponsors, and it doesn't matter if it is a female or a male. I have seen it working, in fact. The women that have progressed heavily back in my days in corporations, they force themselves, because I know that it wasn't natural, because we had these one-to-one discussions, say, well, it is an effort because now I would like to leave the office, but it is an effort to go and spend 30 minutes in a drink, which men are very good at doing that stuff, is because they don't have any pressure to come back home. But now, knowing that men are kind of good at this political savviness, creating unions, creating groups, gangs of people that understand we have the same languages, and so on. Do women need to go into this level of politics that at the same time can harm organization? Because if you are taking decisions because of politicals or political alliances, you are not doing the best for the organization. You are doing the best for either your survival or either for your group of friends. Is it that good to be too political? Is it something that women should learn from men, or we should ditch it and take their own way?
I think it depends on how far you push it, right? So I would actually distinguish networking and politics. For me, those are slightly different things, right? So if you manipulate your social circles to get the outcomes that you want, or you build the alliances around you to achieve certain outcomes that is in your interest, for me, it's politics, right? And we know that it won't be good for the company as an outcome. So what works for the company is actually helping a diverse team. So we know that companies that have a diverse leadership, and here we can speak about gender, we can speak about race, etc. We know that those companies, they likely to outperform in profit by 20%, they likely to outperform in value creation by 26%. So diversity helps. Manipulating diversity doesn't. Obviously, for me, what you called was this kind of last example, but by saying men build these political systems, etc. It's an issue on its own. It's not like women should not copy it, but I think the corporate culture should be watchful, not to let it grow.
When we look at men, is there a way that men in leadership positions can become better allies and advocates for women? That's part of my question. And the other part comes to, is there anything that men should start learning from the women's leadership style, especially that we see this pattern of culture changing a little bit into these things that we thought that were not important, like empathy, and women have it. Is there a way for men to start learning that stuff? Should they do it? And how can they become better advocates for women?
Look, I think there is always a way to start learning, right? I think the learning journey starts with self-awareness and basically doing audit of your own skills. So if you as an individual, be that man or woman, knows that you're lacking those skills, develop a plan to get there. How can you reach point A to point B? So if you as a male leader, you know that you are missing on empathy or you're missing on emotional intelligence, because I've seen fantastic leaders for male leaders who are strong on IQ, but missing enormously EQ. And the moment they would grow this EQ, I sincerely believe they would be unstoppable leaders. But they don't have it, and they don't believe that they should. They don't believe they need it. So probably the starting point here is to embrace that, yes, emotional intelligence where women are stronger is needed. High quality communication, communication with empathy is needed. Thinking about problem solving, decision making where women are strong as well is also needed. Yes, men are strong already at it. It's a question how it's done. It could be done in a very harsh and abrupt way, or it could be done in a more inclusive manner. So it's all about how it's executed. Yes, men, to your question, would definitely develop those skills. But for me, their journey starts one step behind. They need to understand why they need it and what would it give it to them, and how high is high for them the moment they expand their leadership skill set. How can they help women, to your first question? Basically, to what I said, where women need to focus on themselves, I guess men would be extremely helpful by giving them a hand. So if women today, for instance, are lacking skill set in building networks or finding sponsors, Be proactive sponsors. Give that hand. Identify talented female individuals in your organization and your team. Be proactive in suggesting to become a mentor, in suggesting to become a sponsor. Guide them on their decision making process. Guide them on their career trajectory. Be there for them. It's one way how to help. Second one, yes, women can raise a hand and speak up about biases. Men can do the same. Absolutely. It's so easier when you're part, because I've seen it a lot. When man is a part of leadership organization, he will never call out biases because he's already there. Why would he bother? And I've seen kind of men being promoted and promoted and promoted to the leadership team. And I was like, guys, but are you even bothered that there are no women? No, it's a process, it's a journey. Like, yes, at the end we want to have more women, but for now we're good. I was like, of course you're good because you are in. You don't want to speak up because you are in. And I guess it would be helpful if men would just amplify female voices, whatever the level, whatever their position, but just really help these voices be heard in the organization.
Yeah, it made me laugh, this comment that you have made about it is a process. It's going to come naturally. It doesn't come naturally. If we look at the laws of natural selection, of survival of a species, naturally, in fact, if we don't do anything, is that women are going to disappear from leadership positions if we do things by nature. So we will take action. Otherwise, it will go away. You mentioned a couple of skills that both genders can either learn from each other, but I have the impression that the way we learn stuff in corporations is a little bit shitty. You don't go to a training of 2 days about cognitive biases, or where you are going to practice what is the right communication that you should say about a person who is brown like me. I think it is bullshit, because we are talking about meta skills. It's about how to train your brain to naturally be aware, and that's where self-awareness comes to, like, it is dot on the problem, and then amend these behaviors, because it will be natural to have biases. That's how monkeys became humans, and humans survived through biases. But how do we learn these skills? What is your take on that, Julia?
Oh, it requires a big cultural shift, right? So, as you said, monkey became human in how many centuries? So if I use this image as an illustration, unfortunately, it doesn't give me a good promising outcome in my head. But we do need as a society to have a strong cultural shift. We need to drive whatever it takes, educational campaign, awareness campaigns on what type of leadership both gender bring, what's the impact, and what's the outcome, possible outcome. And I think I do hear you a lot and resonate on all these corporate trainings, how it's done, often done to tick the box or to report to shareholders, I've done it, or hey, actually, I advanced my gender parity by 0.1%. What's needed, I guess, it's when the whole incentive model starts working, when the pain is strong enough or benefit is clear enough. So pain today as an argument, it doesn't work because we have men being in leadership roles and they're very comfortable and they're not bothered. So this one doesn't work. Maybe we can amplify the benefit, because we hear it from study to study that the more diverse your team, the more benefit you can generate, intrinsic and extrinsic, like financial, non-financial, for your company and for individuals, if you have mixed boards, if you have mixed executive teams. And that's probably what we need to showcase and educate people on it, that the more diverse individuals you have, the higher you can grow, the better you can grow as a company.
I'm totally with you. This story about the lack of awareness of all this research. It's almost like nobody wants to, even for women, that there is a length of research about that shows the benefits or that shows that women outperforms men in, as you mentioned, as 17 out of 19 leadership traits. It is incredible that there is not enough awareness and it's not used enough. And I think you put the finger where it hurts. Is there is lack of knowledge, lack of interest, that then there is about the organization to push to the rest of the employees. This is these are true realities. That is something that organizations can collaborate, and then the cultural side, because I'm going to preach against my church. My church says, learn, but you don't need a training to change the way things are perceived. You need a cultural change. That means behaviors, values that are put together in an organization in an easy manner in order to be adopted, that are going to help accelerate the movement. Is culture first, knowledge about what is happening, the benefits of doing the change, as you mentioned, that I feel that are quite powerful tools, Julia.
I love how you put it, Ivan, in multi-layered system, right? It all starts with a foundation culture. And if you go back to the example of Scandinavia, where for them it was a cultural shift that amplified their economy shift or business shift afterwards. I was having a conversation recently with a Dutch person, Dutch businessman, and I discussed this topic of me being a business coach, executive coach for women, trying to bring more women to the leadership roles. He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, but like there is such a strong demand. Don't you see it in your economy?" He was like, "Not at all. We promote women based on merit. For us, there is no difference between men and women because our society just believes we need to have diversity because the country much more ready to embrace both women and men. Scandinavia, Netherlands are like the more north you go. It's not the case for the Romanian countries because the cultural shift didn't happen there yet. And so he told me, we grow it from the school, we grow it from the kindergartens that men and women, boys and girls, they have equal opportunities. The skills they have, they both equally needed and both equally helpful for development wherever they're building, right, at that level. And then it stays in their mind and stays in their character since their young ages, and they just bring it to the society. However, if you miss these layers of culture, education, and go straight to the business, there's a beautiful term. I learned it recently. It's called gender washing. You heard about greenwashing, right? When we
Yeah.
try kind of to invest, to promote, drive awareness, PR without any actions behind. There is a term similar to this one now. It's called gender washing, where corporates, companies that trying to create lots of buzz and fuss around gender balance for the leadership roles to report to stakeholders, to report to the Wall Street, but there are no tangible actions. So basically, it means misparity of actions and beliefs. So we say A, but we do B. We're gonna do 10 or 25 or 37 corporate trainings on driving awareness of female leadership. Will we promote women afterwards? No. That's what's considered gender washing. And there are some companies more guilty of that than others. I will not put any names here, but there are some research on this gender washing phenomena in the society, and some companies already been called out. Whether you do it or you don't do it, but just don't pretend you participate in their gender equity in your leadership positions.
Okay, that's an action for our audience that we should put together. So after this, go and Google gender washing. Go and Google studies about women in leadership outperforming men, because it is available. It is from reputable research places. Julia, it was really nice, and especially the fact that you put it into the this gender gap, you put it into the area of business, that you have a wealth of information or data that makes us understand more from where it comes and what could be the potential solutions. And some of them are a little bit radical, but we need a little bit of radicality. Otherwise, we don't have the time to wait hundreds of years so that it goes organically. That's enough with this organically bullshit. Listen, Julia, how can people reach you out to have a chat about this leadership development for either for women or just leadership development as a whole? How can they reach you out?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, Ivan. I'm absolutely available to continue the dialogue. I think it's extremely important. I'm available on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Julia Snedkova, whoever wants to stay in touch or drive the conversation. I'm absolutely there. I'm really passionate about the topic. As you said, I try to follow latest developments and research on the matter to ensure I can spot some signs of progress, but we're not there yet.
Uh, Listen, I really encourage people, especially to follow her in LinkedIn because your posts are amazing. I love them. So thank you, Julia, because you are preaching, you are doing what you preach. Thank you very much.
I'm trying. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thanks a
Have
lot.
an excellent day, Julia. It was lovely
You
to
too. Absolutely lovely as well. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you, Ivan. Bye.
bye.